bag. Today we're going to do a bath infusion with some herbs that we've just harvested fresh from the garden, and at the end I'll walk you through how they grow and things like that. So we're going to put this and soak this in the bath for a little while we have our dinner, and that will infuse with the water, and then we'll add more hot water to it when we have our bath, and it'll be a really nice essential oil flower essence bath, which is really good for the skin and the body and inflammatory conditions and things like that. So let's have a look at what's in the bag first. So in this bag, which is actually a insect shield, I guess, that you put over your head when you're working outside and trying to do things and you don't want flies and other insects to annoy you, but it doubles really well as a big tea bag for the infusion we're about to make. In here we have some calendula, some lavender, rosemary, oregano and comfrey from the garden, and you can see it makes a really pretty little aesthetic. And then we're going to sort of pull the thing together, and we're going to put it in the water and let it infuse with the water. Bathtub. So the water in the bathtub is about 48 degrees Celsius. I think that's about 103 maybe in Fahrenheit. Someone correct me if I'm wrong there, because I can't look it up while I'm filming. But anyway, I've put the massive tea bag in the bath, so we're essentially making a really big herbal tea. And I pressed it down to make sure that the water is able to get to all the herbs in there, and it's going to be left now for about half an hour. It doesn't really matter how long you leave it. You can put it in straight away when you're having the bath, but we like to leave it and have the nice oils infused with the water. And then we will add in more water. We don't actually take this bag out when we're having a bath, because we like to get the best that we can out of the herbs that are in there. And I actually rinse my hair with that bag. I'll lift it up over my head and rinse my hair with those wonderful herbs, because I am susceptible to some psoriasis and dandruff and things like that. So it really helps to keep the scalp sort of healthy and clean, and able to fight off all that sort of fungal stuff going on there, which is causing the dandruff. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. And so we'll go now and have a look at these herbs. There is also some lemon balm in there. So look at these herbs growing in the food forest, and talk a little bit about maybe some of the things that they can do for your health as a external use. We're not going to talk about internal use now, because this is obviously a bath. We're not going to be drinking this. And also talk about some of the things that they can do for your garden, as far as bee attractants and soil amendments and things like that with the comfrey, and also how they grow as part of the food forest, and the care that they might need. Not that they need a lot of care, but yeah, we'll go through all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to kind of show you tonight. We are on preparation day. At sunset we'll be celebrating Sabbath as part of our belief as Sabbath keeping Christians. So we like to do this as like a bit of a routine thing, is to have a nice bath for Sabbath and get ourselves nice and clean, and get our skin, nice and supple, and heal any of those sort of lesions or bruising or anything like that that's going on that we might have picked up through the week. And then we also do a detox bath as well in the middle of the week, to really help get rid of all that sort of heavy metals and all those things out of our bodies, so that we can be healthy and our organs can have the best function that they can have. So yeah, I will see you in the garden. Here we have our comfrey plant. Comfrey likes quite a fair bit of water and a fair bit of fertile soil. It's not overly fussy, because it will sort of self-fertile. It'll die back in winter and come back in spring, and it does provide fertilizer for this pear tree here, because of that mechanism where all these leaves will and they're quite high in a lot of minerals and good things for the soil. They break down really quickly. They're like a green manure, if you like, really high nitrogen, and they'll break down through the winter and feed the soil, and then the plants will come back in spring. And Comfrey just sort of takes over an area, so you want to be planting it somewhere where you don't mind it taking over, or putting it in a pot, but you will be needing to feed it and water it quite a bit in a pot. So in ground is really good for these Comfrey plants, and this is deep mulch to keep the weeds at bay, but also by having these big massive Comfrey plants is going to help with the weed control as well around that tree, and it's also going to feed the tree because there'll be way more nutrients in these leaves than what the Comfrey needs. And you can see it hasn't interrupted the growth of the tree at all. The tree was probably about half this size when we put it in, and it's been in for 2 years now. So yeah, we should get some pears off it next season, I would imagine. It was actually fruiting when we bought it, but not very well. I don't think it was in a pot, so it's had a bit of time to kind of get its feet in the ground and do its thing, and had lots of feed from these Comfrey plants that are in here. And to get Comfrey growing in your garden, you can go and pinch a root off somebody that has it growing and plant that root, and once it sort of takes off, you'll always have Comfrey there. It sort of just keeps coming back. It's very, very hard to kill. It just grows like a weed, and it will take over an area like it has here, which is fine. I don't mind it taking over this area, and it will feed trees and things that are growing up above it. It's not sort of invasive in that sort of respect. It doesn't steal nutrients or any of that kind of thing. It probably does off certain species and whatever, but certainly trees, I haven't had any problem with it under any of my fruit trees. So there you go. That's one of those plants that we used in the bath mix, and it's really good for pain. It's really good for muscle healing, bone healing, skin healing, although you want to be a bit careful with skin healing that you're not healing the skin too quickly and locking the infection inside your body. But anything like that, it's really good at sort of mending tissues, and yeah, so that's what we use Comfrey for as a topical treatment. It's not recommended to use it internally because it does have alkaloids that can affect the liver, used long term and used fresh, so just keep that in mind. Mulberry tree, we have the lemon balm, or bee balm, or Melissa officinale, I think it is. I probably got that totally wrong, but anyway, it is there. It is pretty hardy. It doesn't like to be in drought too much. It likes a little bit of moisture. It is from the mint family, so you know, similar kind of hardiness, I guess. They do tend to flower when it frosts, and they will take over an area as well. I'm not too concerned about that here. I want them to take over this area so these weeds aren't such a problem. We will be pulling the weeds out, and have been pulling the weeds out as we go, but they're just so prolific at the moment with all the rain that it's hard to keep on top of them. But anyway, lemon balm is awesome. You can use it externally or internally, and it's just one of those soothing herbs, good for sort of skin conditions. It makes your skin nice and soft too when you we get that bag of herbs that I showed you, and we sort of rub it on our skin as we're having a bath, and all of those essential oils and things get released through that. And lemon balm is a really good one for the skin. So yeah, I don't really take much care of it. It does its own thing. It doesn't need a lot of feeding. It doesn't need, I mean, it likes to be watered, but it doesn't need watering in my case, because the wood chips hold enough water in the soil for the lemon balm to be quite happy and do its thing and grow and all of those sorts of things. And again, we're going to try and get it to take over this area so we don't have the weed problem. And it's a pretty good companion plant. you know, not too invasive, I guess, to other plants. Grows well with strawberries and things like that. So and it's a good ground cover as well. So yeah, it's a really nice plant. Smells beautiful, tastes like a very mild herby lemon taste. Yeah, it's quite sweet smelling. Smells like a lemon really, but a sweet herby sort of undernote, I guess. Yeah, we love bee balm or lemon balm, whichever common name you want to use is totally fine. This rosemary has gone nuts. It started out as a little tiny cutting, which is the best way to sort of propagate rosemary, is just to grab a cutting that's sort of, you know, like that sort of size, and just kind of give you an idea. And you want to take all the leaves off except for the top leaves and just stick it in the ground as far as you can, and you'll end up with this pretty quickly. This is about maybe a year old, and that's all it started out to be, was a tiny little cutting. It doesn't need much feed at all, it doesn't need much water, it's very drought hardy. Yeah, a really good plant to be grown in Australia for sure. It's really loving even the wood chips. See, it's all wood chips there. There's some echinacea over there. It's really loving. It just thrives in any kind of environment. I think even shade it doesn't seem to mind. So it's one of those herbs that really everyone should grow. It will grow in a pot just fine. And you know, you can cut it right back, and I don't mind it being bushy like that, but you can cut it right back and have a much smaller plant. And then we have the lavender here, which we also used. The lavender's just gone nuts. It was a tiny little plant when I put it in. It's about a year old as well, I think, or maybe 2 years now. I bought the plant, but you can take the same thing with the rosemary. You can take cuttings from it. It again doesn't need much care. I haven't watered this except for when I first put it in, and it's fine through all the frost and all that kind of stuff too. And these two plants are actually protecting a kumquat tree that doesn't mind the frost, but it doesn't like the sudden weather temperatures. So I'm hoping that these two, the rosemary and the lavender, will sort of protect it a little bit from that weather fluctuation, so that it's not getting a shock and dying off. So we'll see how that goes. And behind those two trees is the chase tree berry, which is another herb that we use for hormone balancing and pituitary and adrenal glands, for those sorts of things, to heal those and balance those and all that kind of stuff. And it's also used as a pepper, which I think I've talked about before. And under the fig tree is the oregano, or oregano, I think Americans call it, oregano in Australia. We use this as an antimicrobial oil, protects against infections and things of the teeth a lot, but we use it too on our skin, and that's why it's in the bath, because we're using it for that reason. It doesn't need a whole lot of feeding, but it doesn't like to be too dry, so the wood chip situation here is good for it. It quite enjoys it. It will spread like any kind of mint family does, and we don't mind it spreading through here because it's keeping the weeds away. So that's the purpose of the oregano. I'd rather have oregano than weeds. So I think that's all of the herbs that we used in that mixture. And I hope you've enjoyed this video and learning about maybe a different way to use the herbs that you might have in the garden, that, you know, you might be using them for cooking and stuff like that, but you can also be using them for your skin as an external wash, or an external herbal tea. Really, it's a big version of a herbal tea. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you very soon in the next video.